What is going on, y'all? Quiet here. So, this is my first video. It's kind of sad at the fact that my first video has to be something pretty depressing, but I wanted to talk about how life is shit, you know? Um, I feel like there's a certain point that you can hit in your life to where everything just seems to be so overwhelming, you know? Like, at a certain point, you keep on having hope. You think that things are going to get better, but they don't get better. And you're stuck just being hopeful. I'm the kind of person that has a lot of expectations for myself. So I always expect myself to do the best in everything that I do. Let's say in the game, right? I will try to be the 0.01% of the people there. I will try to be the best, right? In anything that I do. But the problem with that is, of course, if you can't reach those expectations, you're going to be disappointed in yourself. And that is just a fact, you know? It is what it is. But it's like, I look at myself, and every single day, I look at myself and I'm like, it feels like I'm wasting my time. You know, it's like, what is the point? Because before, right, I used to have a passion for music, making videos. You know, I wanted to do something unique. I've been that way ever since I was in school. You know, everybody was doing their work in school, and I was like the only person that completely didn't do anything. I was just sitting there, you know, and staring at nothing, staring at the clock, just waiting for school to end just so I could get to do something that I like, which was YouTube at the time because I used to make like 10-hour videos. I used to loop songs for 10 hours. I had a channel called 10 Hours of Everything and stuff like that. And I was very passionate about it, you know, because I always thought that, yo, I'm going to be one of those people that is going to be different because a regular job does not suit me. So even in school, I didn't really take school that serious because it just felt off. It felt like school was not for me. So I decided to pursue music, right? And I'm like, wow, that actually, like, music is more than what it is to an average person. What music is to me is a lot more than what it was to an average person because I actually used to self harm before, and I use music as like a therapy session, you know, like a safe place to where I could pretty much talk about anything that I feel over a beat. You know, I wasn't too good at it. The mixing was bad. Everything was pretty much horrible, but it was more so the vision of, yo, this actually helps me feel, you know, more mentally good. It helps me feel safe. It helps me feel comforted. I feel like I'm doing something right. And that right there was gave me all of the motivation that I needed to keep on doing it. And you know, fast forward 6 years, I'm nowhere. And it's not even because of me. It's not because of, let's say, the songs are bad or something like that, you know? Because before I used to be delusional, you know, at a certain point, you get to a thing to where it's like every single song that you make, if you're an artist, sounds good to you. But then once you re-listen to it after you improve, like in a couple of years, you re-listen to those old songs and you're like, I can't even listen to them. Like, they hurt my ears. I don't understand how delusional I had to be to even think that they're good. But there's something about old songs that I have that just, you know, it just like hits. I know that they're private. I know that nobody is going to listen to them. And I know that I archived them, right? So it's like when I re listen to them, no matter how bad they sound, I know that there's a story behind it. You know, I remember this stage of my life that I was in when I was making those songs, which was like self harming and recording those songs in a parking lot because I didn't know how to do anything else. I could have recorded in my room because of my parents, right? They used to always be home and stuff like that and bothering me. So I used to sort of be very quiet. I never spoke to anybody, but the only time I would feel like I could be myself is when I went to a parking lot at like 3 in the morning and recorded stuff on Being Lab, you know? That was like when I actually felt like something was good. That's when I actually felt home, you know? That's when I actually felt safe. I felt like, yo, I finally have a purpose. I finally feel like I'm doing something that is valuable because I'm pretty much building a legacy for myself. I was at the bottom of the barrel at a certain point, you know, and I literally couldn't do anything. I just felt stuck because I felt like every single day was just a step closer to death, you know? Because I was self harming, I was pretty much suicidal, I was going through a lot of stuff, right? And I genuinely felt like every single day was just a day closer to death. So if I'm making music, if I'm making a song, no matter what they sound like, I'm able to tell a story, right? And I'm able to pretty much at least know for myself that I spoke out about the stuff that was hurting me. I spoke out about the trauma, you know? I opened up about stuff. I didn't just hide and pretend that everything is okay. No, I let it all out. Depression fucking sucks, you know? I can feel happy even when I go into these comfort zones, for example, music, where it makes me completely forget about all of the stuff that I'm dealing with, right? For example, like being in debt and other stuff like that. It's like even when I go into those comfort zones, all that it takes is just to think about it for 1 second, you know? If I lose focus in music and I actually think about life for 1 second and I think about all of the shit that I have to deal with, then it becomes very overwhelming. You know, I could instantly go from happy into sad, depressed, and even on the verge of literally crying. Because, you know, imagine at one point you're listening to music thinking that things are gonna get better, and then in like 5 minutes you're like, oh shit, you know, I'm over $2,000 in debt. My parents are mentally abusive, and there's an argument that can start at any second whenever they come home from work. And they can try to threaten to kick me out, which has happened before. And anything could happen. You know, going from self harming every day to completely quitting it in hopes of my life getting better, you know, trying to find comfort in music and stuff like that. It was all a great idea until it wasn't. Because all that it takes is literally half a second for me to think about the stuff that I'm actually going through. To realize that I'm still living with my parents, that if they come home from work and decide that they want to fuck with me, that they can do it, you know? Because there's been times before where I was threatened to get kicked out of my house. And, you know, that shit stays with you. You don't just forget about it, you know, because it's like, I literally ran away from home so many times, you know? There was a whole police search report made on me just because I kept running away from home. Because I was being threatened to get kicked out, and I felt like, okay, I gotta be prepared for that. Because if I have no food, if I have no clothes, or if I'm not mentally prepared, then I would just die. So it's better if I run away first. And at a certain point, all of those threats to get me kicked out sort of stopped. But the trauma from that is still there, you know? I still remember, like, I still expect my parents to just come home and threaten to kick me out. Like, I could go on and talk about this stuff for hours, but it would be pointless. I would leave that for like another video if anybody wants to see that. And it fucking hurts because it feels like every single thing that I try to achieve, just I watch it fall apart, you know? Whether it's a game that I actually am good at, you know, and boom, the game dies out, or whether it's YouTube and boom, my channel gets 3 strikes and it gets removed. At a certain point, you will hit rock bottom to where things can get worse. And at that point, a lot of people either commit suicide, start self harming, or fall into things that affect them for the rest of their life, such as becoming an alcoholic, smoking cigarettes, vaping, all kinds of stuff, right? Self harming. A lot of people don't realize that they hit the bottom of the barrel. You know, a lot of people just think, okay, I'm hopeless. There's no way up from here because it's just gonna be like this forever. But if you actually live enough to try to heal yourself, to try to get better, then you will understand, you know, that things do get better. And once you actually get better, for example, I was self harming every single day. Even in a parking lot, when I was making songs at 4 in the morning, I used to literally self harm before making a song, you know? And it used to affect me, of course. But now that I look back on it, I'm like, okay, that was the worst point in my life. That was the point where I was self harming every single day, where I was skipping school, where I was ignoring everybody, not talking to anybody. I felt like I had to be forced to be silent because I was being invalidated. And I felt like the only real way to feel peace is to commit suicide. Once I hit that point and I actually got better, I look back at it and I'm like, I know that I will never get to that point again. I already quit self harming. You know, I haven't self harmed in I think like 6 or 7 months. but it still affects me because the thing that it is with depression is like you don't know when it's gonna come back. It's not a thing that you just get over and it never comes back. If you're truly diagnosed with depression, which by the way, diagnosis doesn't mean that you gotta live in a certain way, right? Just because you're diagnosed with depression and they say that, for example, depression almost never goes away, that doesn't mean that you should be hopeless and take any sort of sad day and think of it as it's not gonna get better. I'm depressed and there's nothing that I can do. I'm stuck with this for the rest of my life. It's not like that, you know? Things do feel more manageable, but it's like it will be there, you know. You will still be depressed, you will still think about stuff. And when you're traumatized from the point to where you're a kid and your brain is developing, there's not a lot of stuff that you can take into your older life and look at and be like, yo, life is fucking good, you know. I'm seeing all of these people out here, you know, partying, living their life, the same people that I went to school with, you know, with 3 cars and 2 children. And I'm out here, the only one, you know, just confused in my parents' home, prepared for war. It feels like literally every single day I'm just spending trying to heal myself by relying on the comfort zones that I have, such as like listening to music or playing games and trying to edit them, you know? But I know from other people's standpoint, it's like, what's the point of doing music if you're not getting any views, or if you're not promoting it, you're not even trying to blow up, or what's the point of recording a dead game and editing videos, right? To me, it's therapy, and it's more than that because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, you know? And I'm prepared for the worst because I've seen the worst. So I'm always stuck in that protective mind state to where I don't know what the fuck to expect, but I'm really prepared for the worst. But yeah, I just needed to get that off of my chest, you know. There's a lot of stuff that I want to talk about, and that's exactly why I made this channel, just to sort of vent or tell stories or the stuff that I've been through. Bring some of, you know, bring some awareness to the stuff that I've been through, but also just share my story. That's gonna be enough for today. I'm gonna tell more stuff, but I will do it in my future videos. I don't know when. I'm not really used to this editing style, so I'm not sure how it's going to work. But I guess we're gonna see. If you made it all the way here, then I mean, I don't know. I don't even know why you will watch a video like that. You know, since it's like I'm just really talking about the trauma that I went through. But if you made it here, man, then thank you. You know, thank you for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you sort of found this calming as well. I usually have stuff in the background, for example, people talking if I'm like playing a game or I'm doing something that I gotta put my full focus on to just stay calm and clear my head. So I hope that I'm able to do the same with this channel and just talk about stuff, you know? So yeah, quiet out.